And this Russian guy comes in. He's like, I recognize you. You'll win competition, but you look so weak. I was like, what? How dare you?
Hi everyone, this is Rick, and welcome back to the Seed the Startup Journey, the entrepreneurship podcast sharing the origin stories of amazing founders and their companies in under 20 minutes. Today, I'll be chatting with the founder and CEO of Stakester, Tom Fairey. Tom is a guy whose competitive nature got him into a Jujutsu match with a big Russian guy. That led to the creation of Stakester, a platform where you could challenge anyone to your favorite game like League of Legends, so that you can back yourself and win cash prizes. Hey Tom, to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your company, Stakester?
Yes. Hi, I'm Tom Fairey. I'm the CEO and founder of Stakester. I would call myself a first-time founder, although when I first started Stakester, I probably didn't call myself that. But then naively, so what happened before Stakester, I'd been in a company called Quantexa where I was a founding employee. So there was 6 founders and then there was me. Yeah, at the very beginning. And I had a management level role. I ran all of commercial and I used to call myself a founder. But you're never really a founder until you've done it on your own and you've really felt that bleed and the pain that you feel when you're in that role. My constant obsession with competition and being desperate to compete with people at any opportunity that I can. I had some really great advice from some good friends of mine, which was mentors, which was just do something you're passionate about. And so that's the path I took.
Yeah, so can you tell me a little bit more about how you came up with the idea? I heard there's something to do with wrestling.
Okay. So it's not actually wrestling, it was actually Jujutsu. For the audience, Jujutsu is basically aggressive hugging where you get someone to say stop. It's ultimately what it is. So you can hear my dog yapping in the background there. That's Nancy, the chairman of my business. Let me tell you. So I'm heavily into my martial arts, but I'm not particularly good. And this guy, I was on the mat doing some jiu-jitsu, and I'm pretty new to jiu-jitsu, but I've been doing it for about a year. And this Russian guy comes in, he's like, I recognize you, you'll win competition. And I was like, yeah, I did win a competition. You're right. Thanks, buddy. And because I'm a bit of an idiot, all my friends around me are like, shut up, don't let him hear that. And he's like, well, but I was feeling great. And then he says to me, but you look so weak. I was like, what? How dare you? How dare you say that about me? And so I was laughing anyway for it. Everyone was very funny, but then it just turned like that. And he says, well, how about the whisper sometime? And I'm like, all right, bro, I don't know you. Yeah. He just rocks up in a vest. And, if you're wearing a vest, you got to have some gun. He had some. I was like, all right, yeah, let's roll. And so we both put in $10 and we rolled. But anyone who's listening, I didn't know what I was doing, so I just pulled guard and I just popped him into a triangle, and then he's out. He's gone. I'm tapping straight away, which was a bit of a surprise for me because I think that's the only time I've ever tapped anyone out in my life. But I was like, whoa, buddy, I won. Where's my money? And he's like, oh, no, I pay you next time. I'm like, no, that's not how we roll here, buddy. You pay me now. And then that spark went, that moment that you get when you're a fan, you're like, holy sugar. There should be something here. So I get on my phone, I'm flicking through, there's no apps for it. I run home and I lock myself in a room and I'm screwing around. I'm like, look, the answer here, this isn't really about live sports. It's a big part of it, but the real opportunity here is gaming. But I don't know anything about gaming. And so I look around my network and I phone up a good friend of mine, Monica, and I say, Monica, look, this is my idea. I know you used to work in game, we've got to connect. And she's like, well, have you met my fiance? And I was like, no, who's he? He was the co-creator of Grand Theft Auto. Wow. I'm like, right. Okay. I'm like, what's he doing tomorrow? I'm in London. I'm like, what's he doing tomorrow night at 6? And she's like, what, do you want to do a Zoom? I said, no. This is pre-COVID, bro. I get on my phone. I'm looking at a Skyscanner. I can be in New York tomorrow at 6. So I hop on a plane. I go over to New York. I meet Gary and the rest is history.
Wow. I love that, especially your drive and your energy. You told Monica, but after coming up with the idea, how were people's response to your idea? Were anyone saying, hey, it sucks?
Yeah, of course, right. Whenever you come, I have a mantra about startups. And when you have an idea, I'm like, talk to somebody. Okay. Just talk to people, see what they think. And, it's universal. Like some side of it, like my bros, they're the laddie guys. They're like, yeah, this is amazing. I'll definitely beat you at FIFA. Let's do this. And the less competitive people are like, yeah, not for me. you know what it's like. But anyway, but I was like, look, first of all, just as a bit of a statement, I am hugely anti-gambling. I don't like gambling as a concept, but I know it's people get excited by it. But I was like, how can I create an environment that's exciting, but also not dangerous? Because, ultimately the key principle about gambling is that you are putting money on an outcome that you can't control. And that's not all we do. What we do is you're putting money on an outcome you can control. Like if you and I go for a race, Rick, I'm going to win because I'm incredibly fast. But the point is, if we go for a race, we can control who the winner is by being faster. Okay, we're in control of that. Whereas if I am watching two people race, I'm not in control. And I think that's a negative thing. But I was thinking to myself, let's think about the psychology behind this and think, why do people love it so much? Why? And I was like, I'm convinced the dopamine goes up when you do this. Now, I'm not a scientist, but so what I did was I bought some cheap heart rate monitors off the internet, off Amazon. I think they were like $10 each. They were awful. But my mates were having a FIFA night. And so I went around with my mates and I think there's 8 of us there. God, those were days, weren't they, when you can actually have more than 2 people in a room. And I pop over there and I pop all these heart rate monitors and all my mates like, who is this douchebag? What are you doing, Thomas? What is this madness? And we were playing and I just had my little spreadsheet out and I'm monitoring their heart rates. And when we first started playing, it was like, people pretty average. And then I said, right, guys, we're now playing for pizza. All right. If you don't win, you got to buy the pizza. And it was mad, Rick. I'm telling you, like it went from like averaging at like 70, 80 to be like 120, just like that. Wow. The pressure, the sweat. And I was like, do you know what? If you can get someone to have a product which gets someone's heart up from 70 to 125, you're on to a bit of a winner. And so that's what we did. And that was our test.
Were you able to get the pizza?
Hey, Rick, I wouldn't tell you the story if I'd lost, would I?
Gotcha. This is a question from my audience, but I think it fits pretty well here. How did you go out and validate your idea? I mean, you talked about the pizza and FIFA night, but were there other, customer interviews that you've done to see if it works? Yeah.
So this is a big thing. Customer validation is really important. I'm glad you asked this question. So at the very beginning, I was like, look, it's all well and good that I've asked a smaller number of people, like 5 or 10 or whatever people. And not everyone says it's a great idea, which is good. That's what you want, right? You want a little bit of friction. But then I was like, I need something bigger than this. So I simply created a survey. Put together a survey. I ran a competition on Facebook. I was like, look, you can win a set of SteelSeries headphones. Here's a set of questions. I went and asked that. And I was like, look, you look at an election. If you run a government poll in the UK, run a government poll and they get like 100 responses. They think it's fact. Yeah, we got 1,600 responses to that competition because people wanted a set of headphones. And we asked questions like, would you put money on yourself? How much would you do it for? What game would you do it for? Why would you do it? We got so much amazing data. And that survey actually led us to creating our first product because it gave us the insight about what people cared about. My advice to anyone who's doing that, by the way, is don't lead to a hypothesis. If you go into that survey and you're creating, which is leading down a path, say, yes, I want to do this, of course, you're going to get the answer that you were looking for. Yeah. What you want to do is you want to make it open as much as possible so you actually might get some information you didn't expect. And so we got a lot of information we didn't expect from that.
So I thought the concept of Stakester is super cool. But just from kind of downloading the app, I noticed there were a few problems. For instance, it seems like for some states, this is not available. And also, there doesn't seem to be a ton of people using the platform. So how do you go about tackling these issues?
Sure. So look, it's a couple of things. So one, we can't be in the Google Play Store. The way we operate isn't entirely in line with what they're doing. We're working very hard to try and do that because, we're quite fringe. People are like, well, is this gambling or is it not gambling? And we're strictly not gambling. We know that, we've had this signed off by 2 of the biggest law firms in the world and the gambling commissions to say, yes, you are not gambling. But that's quite a nuanced thing. We realize that there are some nuances there. So we're working with Google to try and get ourselves on the Play Store. We are in the App Store, of course. Now, one of the things that we are doing, which is always difficult when you're a marketplace model, which ultimately we are, right? Okay, so you've got to have someone to play against at the same level, at the same game, at the same time, for the same amount of money, okay? So that's a marketplace issue. So there's quite a lot of factors there. So what we do is, we're trying to get to that point where we get to critical mass. Now, because we're growing by hundreds and thousands of customers a day, we're getting very close to that critical mass point and we get there all the time. But the majority of the moment are people who play against their friends. Okay, so they play against their mates or whatever. So that's why you don't see that many open competitions. But we're now at a point where we have, bear with me 1 second, there's just a postman at the door. It's all right, he's gone now. He's gone, you can hear my security. So yeah, so we're at the point now where we are getting really close to that critical mass. That's where our average acceptance rate when we first started was 7 minutes. Yeah. And it's now 47 seconds. So things are getting much better. But yeah, it's a problem that any business that's a marketplace business goes with. And getting to critical mass is a challenge, but it's something you've got to focus on and work hard at.
So Tom, you also host the Back Yourself show. Is that part of Stakester's brand? And like, what's the reasoning behind the strategy?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when I started Stakester, as I said, alluded to earlier, like I was really a first-time founder and I didn't know answers to a lot of questions. So things like, what do I put in a pitch deck? Where do I find my first investors? What are the big mistakes that people make? Where am I wasting my time? And then I had a conversation with one really great guy called Alex Dunstan in the UK. And he's like, Tom, do you know what? We should record these discussions. I was like, do you know what, bro? Let's do it. So we started recording it and that's where we created the Back Yourself show, because I firmly believe that people should back themselves. People should back themselves to be successful when they want to do. If you are passionate about something, go ahead and do it. The worst thing that can happen when you become an entrepreneur is you lose a year of your life, but then you become more employable anyway. So don't worry about it. Go for it. Take the risk. Now, I appreciate that some people may not be in the financial position to do it, but do something. Do something in the sidelines and get yourself forward to try and get yourself over that line. I wish I'd done it earlier. I really do. I wish I'd done it earlier. But the safety of working in a corporate environment was there. And ultimately, I'll be honest with you, like I lost years because, I wasn't happy there doing that. And now I couldn't be happier because of the challenge you go through every day. And so the Back Yourself show, which is really about answering some of those core questions and giving some key secrets to our audience about how people became successful. Much like what you're doing here.
Yeah, I love that. So where are you now along your startup journey? I know you guys just closed your Series A, is that correct?
Incorrect. No, we closed our C. No. Okay, so let me tell you, yeah. So we started out, we're bootstrapped to begin with. So I backed us at the very beginning, not much. And then we raised £500,000 in pre-seed. Now, funny story about that. It took me 9 months to raise my pre-seed $500,000. And I did it as a rolling round through something. In the US, it'd be called a SAFE. In the UK, we call it an ASA. And we went through that journey and then we got to the end of that. And then we're like, we need some more money, right? We're doing really well. We've got some traction. And so I decided to do a seed round. It took me 2 weeks to close my seed round.
Wow.
Yeah, 9 months for $500,000, 2 weeks for $2.5 million. It was mad. We've taken that seed investment and we're in the point now where we want to be world number one. We think we're going to be there in terms of traction by about May. We're pretty excited. And then we're going to open up and do a Series A.
Gotcha. So this is a question from my audience, but what would you say, is your worst self or your greatest weakness?
First of all, you've got to recognize what your strengths are as a founder. Okay. Really, self-awareness is one of those key strengths. And I know the things that I'm good at. I'm good at generating energy and hype within my business. I think of myself, and ultimately as a CEO, you need to be just a great judge of talent. I think I'm good at that. One thing that I struggle with is, first and foremost, I try to do too much. I try to get involved in too many things, which I wasn't actually very good at. Okay. So you've got to let go of the reins. Success is about consistency and commitment. Okay. You've got to commit to it and you've got to be consistent. You've got to keep doing the things you do well. And that's something that I think I'm good at. But one thing I'm not good at is accepting not everyone works at the same pace as me. I might put pressure on people to do things a way that I would want to do it when really that's not how the best way to do it is. So you've got to accept that. The one thing as a founder that I've learned is that I now enter into every conversation accepting that I know nothing about anything. And if I'm lucky, I might be right.
Do you have any advice for someone like me who is still a student, but I'm interested in entrepreneurship and wants to start something of my own in the future?
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing is to try stuff, right? Okay. Now, if you have an idea, okay, that idea might be rubbish. Okay, it doesn't matter. Speak to people about it. Get used to that concept, that mind space where you're asking questions about what is the strength of this idea? What is the weakness of this idea? Go through that process of assessment. First of all, do that and get in the habit of doing it. And then once you've got a good idea, talk to people. Do something. The biggest mistake people make is that they wait. Okay, you don't need to wait. Just do something, whether it be write a mission statement, put together a product roadmap, go and speak to someone about finding a co-founder. And the third piece of advice I'd have for everyone, okay, for everyone, is just meet people. The one thing you cannot build when you need it is a network. Build it before you need it. The reason it took us 2 weeks to do our second round is because I already knew everyone I wanted to raise from. I already knew because I'd already met them. Okay, meet people, make that network before you need to. Also, look after your body. Okay, it is exhausting AF running a business. Okay, if you're not fit and healthy, you're gonna struggle. Get yourself in good shape. Okay, it's worth it. You've got to be the person with the most energy who's always ready. Yeah, always. You don't have the opportunity of taking time off if you're a founder. Okay, you've got to be ready to get yourself in good shape.
So to kind of follow up on that, like you're always high energy, but like, have you ever feel like you're just, burnt out, like you're tired and you don't want to do it anymore?
No, I don't feel like that. And I think it's because but then I can see how that can happen. I've suffered from exhaustion before, had a little bit over Christmas, I think. But I think you got to have time out every day. You got to have respect for yourself. You got to have time where your brain isn't thinking about what you do. You can try things like mindfulness and meditation and so forth. I think that comes in a number of different ways. But you got to find somewhere where you go into your mind palace and you just relax. Okay, and that might be going for a run. It might be hitting a punch bag. It might be playing tennis. It might be just hanging out with your bros, whatever it is. Find something that takes you away from it so you can recharge and give yourself that self-respect. Look after yourself.
Gotcha. So to wrap things up, I prepared a little game. It's called Underrated or Overrated.
Okay.
Ready? So the first one is electric cars.
Underrated. Get more of them now. Do it. They're amazing. The speed of the acceleration is enough to rip your face off. Underrated. More.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, underrated, bro. I'm in the Bitcoin hype. I leverage so much on Bitcoin. Get more Bitcoin. If you're listening, buy more Bitcoin.
Awesome. Sleeping for 8 hours.
Overrated. I think it's between. I think 7's all right. I think 7 to 8. Yeah. Don't panic yourself over 8. 7 to 8. I mean, what did I get last night? 6:12. I feel great.
And in this one, you might be kind of passionate about, but podcasting.
Yeah. Oh my God, mate. I tell you what, overrated. I mean, because there's so many rubbish podcasts out there. Don't just make a podcast for the sake of it. Yeah. Don't make one that's good. Make one that you enjoy. Make one that you're passionate about. Make one that people want to listen to. Just the concept of making a podcast is idiocy. Yeah, make something that is of value. Give people something of value.
Certainly hope my show is providing people some value.
Hey, I believe in you, buddy.
And this next one is college degree.
Depends. If you're becoming a doctor, yeah, it's pretty important. Yeah, hugely overrated. Yeah. Okay, I think experience is the most valuable thing you can have. Okay. You don't get experience of running a business being at university. If you want to play rugby, get on a pitch and play. Don't read a book about it. Okay. If you want to be a good entrepreneur, go out and do it. Now, look, I'm sure there's a lot of value that comes from being an MBA and there's a lot there. I'm networked with some of the best founders in the UK, and I don't know any that have an MBA.
So this is my last question for this interview, but what is the best advice you've ever received? The
best piece of advice I've ever heard is from Conor McGregor. All right. Action kills doubt. All right. If you're worried about something, do something about it. Don't just let it happen to you. Do something.
That's awesome. Well, that's it for today's interview. Thank you so much for coming on. And I wish you the best of luck and stay safe.
Mate, it's really good. Great interview. Thank you so much. Honored to be on.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. That was under 20 minutes, but if you want to hear my takeaways from chatting with Tom, stick around. The first thing I noticed is how energetic Tom was throughout this entire interview. You could probably tell from the way he talks about his story that he's super enthusiastic about what he's doing, and he also has the charisma to get other people interested and energetic as well. The fact that he booked a plane ticket for the very next day upon hearing that his friend's fiance is the co-creator of GTA also demonstrates his drive and his ability to just take action. Tom threw out a lot of really great advice, but what I wanted to emphasize is how important it is to meet new people. The one thing you cannot build when you need it is a network. Build it before you need it, was what Tom said. And that's the reason why they were able to raise $2.5 million for their seed round in less than 2 weeks. Finally, when asked about his greatest weakness, Tom mentioned how he tries to do too much. I also have that problem for this podcast. I'm doing everything from scheduling interviews to making TikTok videos. And some of these things that I'm doing aren't necessarily what I'm good at. And so realizing this, I'm now looking for someone to join the seed and head our marketing. If you're interested, I will put a link in the description below to the specific role as well as the application link. And so make sure you check it out. That's it for today's episode. As always, feel free to reach out to me, Rick Liu, or The Seed on any social channels if you have any industry requests, any questions you'd like to submit, or if you just want someone to bounce your ideas off of. With that, make sure you like this video and subscribe, and let's grow our seed of innovation and creativity together. I'll see you next time.